Hi, Gary Stearman speaking to you from Studio 2 at Prophecy Watchers. And today is September 19th of the year 2017. Bob Ulrich is with me in studio. And Bob, what's special about that date?
September 19th, 2014, 3 years ago to the day, we actually launched the Prophecy Watchers ministry. I'll never forget the excitement of sitting in your home with a laptop, with our webmaster next to us, and hitting the button and taking our website live. It's now reality. We have a ministry driven by the Lord. In fact, I have a little mug here that is a quote from Theodore Herzl, and it says, "If you will it, it is no dream." Well, I'd like to change that a little bit, because if God wills it, it's no dream.
No dream.
And that's where we find ourselves today.
It is indeed, and it's been a very rapid 3 years. Interestingly, 2 years ago, in this month of September, we published our first edition of the Prophecy Watcher, our magazine. And in so doing, with a video ministry, with a magazine, and with other associated ministry tools, we are building a prophetic ministry that we're going to be telling you about in detail in the next few minutes, because we have a philosophy. We have if you will, a plan about how biblical prophecy should be presented. And by the way, Bob, and this is one of the big parts of our plan, we believe in associating with the experts, the people who have made a name for themselves as students of Bible prophecy over the last few decades. And we're very, very happy to be associated with a lot of those people, well-known people.
Well, men like Tommy Ice,
Yeah.
Andy Woods, Mark Hitchcock, Aaron Lipkin and his dad, Avi, L.A. Marzulli, Tom Horn, Billy Crone, so many names of people who've walked through these doors before. And these are people who have certain areas of expertise that we have really developed a great relationship with. Brent Miller, Jeff Kinley, so many names of people that we've brought here to the studio. Lots of new names. I mean, lately, lots of controversial names, controversial subjects, cutting-edge subjects that you're never going to hear about in church, well, in most churches. But, talk a little bit about that. We've kind of been pushing the envelope a little bit here lately.
Well, we have, and it really started with Jack Langford and his book, The Gap is Not a Theory, which speaks about the old earth. And of course, Jack refers to himself as an old earth creationist. And the idea behind that is that the fall of Satan, which is very amply illustrated in the Old Testament, was a huge, huge event that has resulted in a chain of events right down to the very present day. And the fall of Satan took place prior to the sin of Adam and Eve in the garden. And then you have to ask the question, well, how long before the sin of Adam and Eve in the garden was it that Satan fell? And when you pursue that in Scripture, I think you come to the inescapable conclusion that the universe, the earth, our solar system is very, very old. And that's sort of where it starts. And then you pursue that through Scripture, as Jack Langford did. And in so doing, we're kind of pushing the envelope, but we're pushing it in a way that can be documented through the study of Scripture.
Oh, that's well said. In fact, Jack's book, The Gap is Not a Theory, has really resonated with people who follow our ministry. So many people have said, I've never heard this perspective before. I've never really looked in Ezekiel. I've never really looked into the book of Isaiah, books and chapters that talk about the fall of Lucifer and talk about some of the things he did in the ancient past that have escaped the notice of many people. I don't know how you deny that there was something, a backstory before Adam and Eve.
And we also are very closely affiliated with men like Dr. Tommy Ice, who officiates in Dallas, Texas at the Pre-Trib Study Group Center, dedicated to rightly dividing the word when it comes to Bible prophecy, pre-mill, pre-trib, dispensational teaching in Bible prophecy. In other words, we want to keep centered at the same time, we're sort of extending the edges in some ways. Let's talk about another extension of the edge in a different direction. Our good friend L.A. Marzulli has been a part of Prophecy Watchers, and he pushes the envelope in a different direction. And at times, we've been criticized for talking about things like the Nephilim and the elongated skulls and things like that. But Scripture, Old Testament Scripture, talks about giants. And then the more you look into those Scriptures, Bob, the more you see that the giants were not only real, there were different species of giants. God hated the giants and ordered the Israelites to kill the giants. Why? What's the story behind the story? Well, that's where L.A. comes in.
The backstory. In fact, L.A. is sitting about 30 yards away from us right now. We're going to be interviewing him on yet another controversial subject, the so-called miracle of Fatima. That there's far more to that story that's been suppressed literally for the last 100 years. He just came back from Fatima, Portugal, where he has recorded a new DVD on the miracle of the sun and the great deception. And it's just utterly fascinating when you watch it and see that there's more to the story than you think. Now, I want to back up for just a second, because when we sat down here today, I opened my Bible. And I don't know if you've ever had this happen to you before, but it opens to a place that you really have to feel is directed by the Lord. My Bible flipped open to James chapter 4. Now, we've been refocusing the efforts of our ministry more and more on evangelism. There's no more powerful subject than Bible prophecy. I mean, if your God knows the future, well, you need to pay attention, because I don't know anyone who knows the future, and certainly anyone who wrote about it 2,700 years ago. And so our focus is really more and more as we really go through what we feel are the very last days of this earth temporarily. The world, of course, will never end. But I opened to James 4:13, and the headline says, "Do not boast about tomorrow. Now come now, you who say, today or tomorrow we will go to such and such a city, spend a year there, buy and sell, make a profit, whereas you do not know what will happen tomorrow. For what is your life? It's even a vapor that appears for a little time and then vanishes away. Instead, you ought to say, if the Lord wills, we shall live and do this or that." You know, when we started this ministry, we started with a logo. We started with a motto, and that motto was, trust the Lord. And from day one, we have trusted the Lord to light the way, to pave the way for the growth of this ministry. Now, Gary and I were just talking about this. What does that mean, growth of this ministry?
Bob, by the way, has a certain mentality. He's constantly problem solving. This is the way his mind works. Everywhere he goes, he's looking at this and this and this and saying, what can we do? How can we do this better? What can we do more? This is the way Bob works. And yet, at the very same time you're doing that, Bob, you're building. And if you could see the way that our warehouse operates, it's the Bob Ulrich warehouse. And you said something to me before we sat down here today, that what we're trying to do here at Prophecy Watchers is create a library of resources. And that library consists of books, DVDs, various informational and motivational types of literature. And I think you've put together one of the best, if you will, libraries of resources that's available right now.
Well, it's kind of a personal project, something I've always enjoyed. Before I became, a Prophecy Watchers, whatever I am here, jack of all trades of some kind. I mean, I was an avid prophecy book reader. And I read a book in 1988, 1989 by Grant Jeffrey, Armageddon, Appointment with Destiny. And that book literally changed my life, because that was the first time I discovered the Jewish feast days and how critical they were, and how God was still working through those feast days long after Israel was cast out of the land. He continued to function, and events would happen on these feast days that were just miraculous, undeniable to see. So that lit a fire in me for prophecy books and materials, and I am just constantly on the lookout for the latest, for the greatest, for things that bless other people. From time to time we get criticized, and you get some comments, oh, you guys are just selling books or just selling DVDs, or you're just in this for the money. I mean, if people knew what we actually do here, the sacrifices, the time invested, the blessings that are coming out of this in other people's lives, Prophecy Conference, our magazine. In fact, if you get our magazine this month, you're actually going to read about my kidnapping. And it's a long, interesting story. In some ways, I shouldn't be here. I should have died back in 1979 or so. And the Lord protected me in the strangest way. When I get to heaven, I'm probably going to meet my guardian angel who will tell me the whole story, how he extricated me from this literal disaster. I can still feel a sawed-off shotgun on the back of my neck. You're going to want to read the article in the October issue of the Prophecy Watcher. So life sends you curves every now and then. 3 years ago, this was the latest curve for you and I. We partnered up together, trusting the Lord to bring blessing. And we're well aware that it is the Lord that brings blessing. I mean,
Absolutely.
We work hard, but ultimately we look to him for guidance and direction.
And the Lord has led us into a number of very, very interesting relationships with writers, prophecy teachers, producers of films, people who really have put a lot of effort into, and we believe this, by the way, to be the period of the end times, simply if for no other reason than that Israel is back in the land, and you can just look at what's happened to Israel for the last 100 years or so, and you can literally see the outline of prophecy. And so we are living in special times. And Bob, a number of people, like the Millers, Brent Miller and Brent Jr., putting together their work, and then the association we've had with them, things like that have just popped into focus for us, and we have been a medium through which they could present their materials.
Well, wait till you see our latest project with the Millers. We've taken things to a completely new level with them. Just two really wonderful people who love the Lord, have a heart for evangelism. We're literally working together hand in hand with them now. 3 years. 3 years ago today was our anniversary, and we just look back and look at the blessings of the Lord. Say thank you to all of you who are watching today. You know, I wanted to talk about the growth of our ministry because the Lord has brought blessing. Just this morning, we learned that we've now had over 14 million of our programs downloaded just off of our Roku channel. If you don't have a Roku box, and you may want to hold that up, Gary.
Yeah, I'll do that. Here it is, not very big, not very heavy, and it says Roku right across the top. And a lot of you are saying, what in the world is Roku? A lot of people know what Roku is, Bob.
If you have the internet, you plug this into the wall, and it picks up a signal that gives you access to 2,500 television channels, including the Prophecy Watchers program. And it's free. Once you buy the box, you can buy it at Walmart. You can go to Amazon or Best Buy or any of these stores and buy a Roku box really cheap. And then once you have it, it literally costs you nothing to have every month. A lot of people are replacing their cable television and DirecTV and everything else. But 14 million of our programs downloaded in the last year and a half. We also have a new app, which has just been a wonderful experience. We're approaching 25,000 people who've downloaded. They've taken the time to download our app on their iPhone. And now when we have a new program, when we have a new update, they just get a little ding on their phone, and right away they are actually the first ones who get to see the weekly program before it goes up on the website, before it airs on television. So the people who get our app are literally the first to get to watch.
Now, we live in an age of electronic miracles, if you will. We're seeing an unbelievable and quick-acting series of changes that are absolutely revolutionizing the way that we can communicate electronically. Bob, I wouldn't have dreamed 3 years ago. Who was thinking of the things that are happening now? I mean, your phone receives a program that can be broadcast to the big screen television. Who knows what's next?
It's really bizarre, isn't it?
It is.
We were talking about the old rotary telephones last night, and I was one of actually the first people to have a handheld Mitsubishi cell phone back in the 80s.
Wow.
And I was a big deal. I mean, this was, to have a phone that didn't have wires connected to it. Who can imagine? And now that's just laughable today.
It's amazing what's going on right now. We look forward, by the way, to meeting and talking with many of you at our prophecy conference, the Blessed Hope Prophecy Forum, and that's going to be taking place, Bob, in the very near future.
October 13th through 15th in Norman, Oklahoma, at the Embassy Suites Hotel. We have a huge crowd of people coming from literally all over the world.
Yes.
Even better, we're going to be live streaming the event, speaking of technology, to the four corners of the earth. I mean, live streaming, if you have the internet, it's the simplest thing ever. We send you an email with a website to go to and a password. Type in the password and you are right there at the Prophecy Conference. We're going to be streaming 44 messages from the two main ballrooms. And for the people who order the live streaming, the cost is $80. We actually have an incredible bonus. And I think it's ironic that we launched this bonus on our 3-year anniversary.
And what would that be, Bob?
Well, it's something I've harassed you about for years. That's my job around here, is to bug Gary. Gary, what do you got? What do you got next? Well, Gary has 4 DVDs that have been recorded live. We call it Studies with Stearman, 4 hour-long presentations on subjects I think are just, people can't even imagine what you're about to hear. Why don't you read off the titles?
Abraham, the 4 Kings, and the Giants. It's a great story. Has anybody ever heard that story? When you do, you'll be amazed. How about Footprints of the Nephilim? Speaking of Mr. Marzulli, he and I have had a lot of conversations about the Nephilim. But did you know that the Nephilim were many in number and many in variety? That is to say, they were dominant and there were several species of them. Well, that's kind of what this is all about. And then it's all about the seed, talks about redemption and the seed of the woman. Huge story. And finally, the last generation. Do you know there are 6 mentions in the Bible, Bob, and only 6 that use the phrase, the last generation. And when you put all 6 of them together, what a picture.
Are we the last generation?
We are, no doubt about it.
Wow, what a thought, huh?
Yeah.
Here's the great thought. Those 4 DVDs, we're going to send them to you for free. Absolutely free. There's no strings attached, other than you're going to get them when you subscribe to the live streaming. So it's kind of a special reward for people, just to say thank you. This is a brand new product. No one has ever seen these before. After the live streaming's over, they'll go into our bookstore for sale. We want to give them to you for free when you subscribe to the live streaming feed at prophecywatchers.com. Real easy to find. Scroll down and look for the big live streaming banner. Click on the banner, it takes you to the bookstore where you can sign up for the event.
I've got to ask, Bob, before we go out here, you subscribe to live streaming. What are you going to get when you subscribe?
You're going to get access to 44 messages from literally every single speaker who's speaking at our event. That's 33 speakers. So you're going to hear people maybe you've never heard of for the first time. This was the way we designed the program, and so everyone would be live streamed at least once. We're going to be doing a program later this week. We're going to be releasing the conference schedule later this week. You'll be able to see all the names, the titles, the messages, and we'll be back in studio here soon to talk about some of those big messages coming your way.
Today, September 19th of the year 2017, our 3rd anniversary. I want to just say thanks to everybody who's been a part of Prophecy Watchers. Many of you have sent all kinds of encouraging notes and well wishes, and you have purchased our products, and you have responded to our messages with encouragement. Many of you have actually helped us to go to the next level, like sitting here in Studio 2. We thank all of you who contributed to the Studio 2 fund. Bob, we could say thanks to so many people right now, but whoever you are, you know who you are. You have helped us a lot here at Prophecy Watchers. For Bob Ulrich, I'm Gary Stearman, and hey, keep watching. We are. Thanks for joining us on Prophecy Watchers. You can find us on the web at prophecywatchers.com, where you can sign up for our free email newsletter, or follow us at facebook.com/prophecywatchers.
In the meantime, keep watching, everybody, and we'll see you soon.